A storm is brewing at the heart of Cameroon's political establishment as the October presidential elections draw closer. Deep divisions have emerged within the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement over the potential candidacy of 91-year-old President Paul Biya. What was once whispered in political circles has now erupted into open disagreement, exposing a power vacuum that many fear could unravel the party's decades-long grip on the nation. At the heart of this, what could this mean for Ambazonians? Well, as we delve into the details, this and many more will be explored in today's Flash News. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Tabitha Akko. Let's begin. In Cameroon, the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement is facing an internal crisis that could reshape the country's political trajectory. Tensions have escalated in recent weeks over the potential candidacy of President Paul Biya in the October 2025 elections, an issue that has sparked visible discord among top government officials and party elites. Now, for many residents in the capital, Yaoundé, this internal rift is more than political theater. It reflects a deep vacuum in leadership. This internal battle says it all. We can say the country is no longer governed because there's no leader to bang their fist on the table, said Yves Toua, a resident of Yaoundé. Now, this unprecedented public disagreement within the CPDM is raising broader questions about the party's legitimacy and functionality. Political analyst Landry Atagana points to the confusion among ministers as evidence of a system in disarray. We have Minister Sadi, for example, who doesn't know what to say, and Minister Jacques Fame Ndongo, trying to reassure people, but in reality, Cameroonians are not fooled, and Tagana noted. Even party members themselves don't know who to turn to. What most dangerous is that everything hinges on one man. Now, if a party's unity collapses without the voice of a single individual, can it truly claim to represent the collective will of the people? He further questioned whether the CPDM, under such conditions, still possessed the moral authority to speak on behalf of Cameroonians, particularly when it struggles to speak with one voice internally. Now, Antangana warned that the party is on the verge of implosion. The core issue, he argued, is the CPDM's failure to plan for a political transition. The chaos in the CPDM can be traced to three causes: the absence of a clear direction, the lack of a named successor, and the fear of a power vacuum, he explained. Now, gone are the days of the internal dissent hidden behind closed doors. What is unfolding now is an open fracture at the top of Cameroon's political establishment. Analysts believe a political transition is inevitable by October. Opposition parties, including former allies, are reshaping the political terrain. Whether we like it or not, the country is now facing a transition, and Tagana said. Now, could this unraveling of central authority of our regions like Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia a renewed argument for autonomy or independence in the face of Yaoundé's instability? We see that observers note that the collapse of historical alliances and the current leadership vacuum may offer the opposition one final opportunity to challenge the CPDM's 43-year rule. The turmoil within Cameroon's ruling party raises key questions for the Ambazonians. If Biya's long-standing centralized rule begins to crumble, what doors might that open for a genuine political solution or even self-determination for Ambazonians? As the central government weakens, will the international community finally be compelled to reassess the legitimacy of Ambazonians' demand for self-rule? Well, this is a critical juncture, and diplomatic action must be taken to reclaim the Ambazonian territory. Well, still in Ambazonia, we see that Kemita, Kemita Ashu has made a statement. In a fiery social media post that has since gone viral, prominent Ambazonian activist Kemita Ashu declared that the separation between Ambazonia and Cameroon is final, insisting that the territory of southern Cameroon, internationally known as Ambazonia, is no longer under the control of the French Cameroon regime. Neighboring La Republic du Cameroon is no longer doing the hypocrisy of including southern Cameroons in their affairs. They know we are not part of them, Ashu wrote, calling for immediate withdrawal of Cameroonian influence and operations in Ambazonian territories. This declaration follows the release of a military recruitment timetable circulating online, showing the Rapid Intervention Battalion BIR's enlistment operations scheduled to occur across several cities in Cameroon, including Douala and Bofuzam, with explicit mention of the southwest and northwest regions, which Ambazonian nationalists consider sovereign territory of their independent state. According to the timetable, the controversial BIR recruitment drive is expected to take place in these regions between July 31st and August 3rd, 2025. The move has been widely condemned by Ambazonian supporters who argue that the French Cameroon government has no legal or moral authority to recruit Ambazonians, especially into a force they allege is complicit in years of brutal military campaigns against the Ambazonian people. They are recruiting people into the killer machine called BIRs, Ashu continued, and since then, they are no longer in control in our territory. They cannot try to recruit there. Now, Kemita Ashu's statement reflects the right projections that typifies the fallen state of French Cameroon's inability to assert control over the Ambazonian territory. We see that the malicious display of segregation could have far more reaching meaning, and that Ashu's statement has clearly exposed. Well, the people of Ambazonia are determined to reclaim their territory. We see that the hashtags accompanying Ashu's post, Pack and Leave Rogue State, reclaiming our territory, a recognition of Ambazonia, and Ambazonia must be free, reflects the defiant tone sweeping through social media channels as activists rally support for full international recognition of Ambazonian sovereignty. Analysts say the latest outrage could intensify tensions between the Ambazonian resistance and Cameroonian government, potentially disrupting any ongoing diplomatic effort or regional stability initiatives. As the calendar for the BIR recruitment rolls out, all sees Ambazonians' defiance against French Cameroon's actions. Now, still in Africa, moving to the Democratic Republic of Congo, peace negotiations between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the M23 rebel group are progressing, according to diplomatic sources, as discussions continue in Qatar with Qatari mediation. While described as moving in the right direction, significant challenges remain before a lasting ceasefire or disarmament can be achieved. Although a peace agreement was signed last month in Washington between Kinshasa and Kigali, with the United States backing it, does not directly include M23, the most prominent rebel group in eastern Congo. M23 has signaled skepticism, suggesting the deal is not binding unless their grievances are directly addressed. Now, the Washington brokered deal is seen by some Congolese citizens as part of a broader United States strategy to secure access to Congo's vast mineral wealth resources critical for global technology, including cobalt and lithium. The United States and China have increasingly competed for influence in Africa, with Congo's untapped mineral reserves estimated at $24 trillion at the center of this geopolitical rivalry. And while the United States has been praised by the Democratic Republic of Congo's officials as a reliable partner, analysts warn that American commitment may hinge more on economic interest than on long-term peace building. Separate negotiations on mineral assets are reportedly ongoing between the United States and Congolese officials. Meanwhile, M23's rebels' connection to Rwanda adds further complexity. Kigali has consistently denied supporting the rebel group, but has acknowledged defending its territorial interests in the eastern DRC. With an estimated 4,000 Rwanda troops reportedly operating in Congolese territory, the line between defense and interference remains blurred. Congo hopes the peace process will lead to the withdrawal of rebel fighters from major urban centers such as Goma and Bukavu. However, the M23 rebels has continued to express doubt over the legitimacy of any deal that excludes them as signatories. Rwanda, on the other hand, has agreed in principle to de-escalate tensions, but has made no clear public statement and commitment to troop withdrawal. Now, while the peace deal is being hailed in some quarters as a diplomatic breakthrough, critics argue that it fails to address the deeper roots of the conflict, namely war crimes, displacement, and ethnic grievances. More than 6 million people have died over the past 2 decades in eastern Congo due to violence, famine, and disease linked to the conflict. Now let's take a look. Well, right there on your scene, a disheartening situation right there. But then what is the United Nations doing about the situation? The United Nations has labeled the situation as one of the world's most complex and protracted humanitarian crises, with over 7 million people currently displaced. In North Kivu province, the epicenter of the violence, there is cautious hope, but also a deep sense that justice and reparations cannot be overlooked. Can peace without justice ever be sustainable, or will unresolved grievances eventually reignite the conflict? Now let's take a lens through historic roots. The Democratic Republic of Congo. Congo's instability is deeply intertwined with the legacy of the 1994 Rwanda genocide, after which nearly 2 million Hutus fled into Congo. Some of these groups later formed armed militias, which Rwanda claims continue to pose threats to its security. This dynamic has fueled decades of mistrust and military interventions across the border. Despite repeated peace efforts, the presence of mineral wealth, ethnic fault lines, and foreign ambitions have kept Eastern Congo trapped in circles of violence. Well, as the coming days unfold, we hope to see that this comes to an end and then the signed deal takes actual effect. Now, still in Africa, over to Mali. Mali's military ruler, General Assimi Goita, has signed into law a bill granting himself a fresh 5-year presidential term renewable indefinitely and without the need for elections. The move, formalized on Tuesday, effectively postpones the country's return to civilian rule until at least 2030. The legislation was drafted following national consultations organized by the junta in April, which were largely boycotted by opposition political parties. It was approved last week by a transitional legislative body composed entirely of military appointees. This latest power consolidation comes just over a year after the military government missed its self-imposed March 2024 deadline to restore democratic governance. With this law, Goita removes the last former bearer to indefinite rule. What happens to a democracy when all levers of accountability are removed and power is concentrated in the hands of one man? The law follows a broader crackdown on dissent. In May, Goita signed a decree dissolving all political parties. This action coincided with an uptick in kidnappings and harassment of pro-democracy activists, particularly in Bamako, just days after a public protest. When the right to organize, protest, or participate in political life is stripped away, can the state still claim to be acting in the interest of national security, or is it safeguarding personal power? These repressive steps have become common under Goita's rule, which began after 2 coups in 2020 and 2021. His leadership has paralleled the deterioration of civil liberties and a tightening military grip on governance. Mali's trajectory reflects a wider crisis unfolding across West and Central Africa, where a wave of coups has overturned elected government. The juntas claim that a longer transitional period is necessary to stabilize the nation and fight jihadist insurgents remains under scrutiny. Is military role delivering the promised security improvement, or has it merely shifted focus away from solving the root causes of insurgency such as poverty, weak institutions, and lack of public trust? Despite pledges to restore stability, Mali remains mired in conflict with jihadist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, especially in rural regions. The state's presence is shrinking in many parts of the country. Goita's extension of power raises significant concerns for democratic institutions, regional cooperation, and Mali's international standing. The indefinite extension of his mandate, paired with the dissolution of political parties, signals a possible departure from any genuine democratic transition. If elections can be postponed indefinitely and opposition voice is silenced, what mechanism remains for citizens to change their leadership or hold power accountable? As the country heads into an uncertain future, the question remains if Mali is witnessing a temporary detour from democracy or a full-scale abandonment of it. Well, now over to Texas and the United States. Communities across Texas have shifted from shock to sorrow as the state confronts the devastating aftermath of catastrophic flash floods. At least 120 people are confirmed dead, with more than 170 still missing. As search and recovery operations continue along miles of riverbanks and debris fields. In the state's Hill Country region, fences have been transformed into makeshift memorials right there on your screen. Photographs of victims, candles, and bright floral tributes now line the streets, silent symbols of loss that grow larger each day. Among the dead are 3 friends who gathered to celebrate the July 4th weekend: twin 8-year-old sisters attending summer camp, and a 91-year-old grandmother beloved for her wit and resilience. Most of the missing are from Kerr County, where nearly 100 victims have already been recovered. Authorities say the number of those unaccounted for may fluctuate as names are verified and reunions occur, but tracking remains difficult in the immediate aftermath of such large-scale devastation. The floods struck suddenly, forcing families to flee in the dead of the night. Survivors recount harrowing escapes, climbing into attics, scrambling onto rooftops, and watching as floodwater swallowed cars and homes. One woman described waiting on a roof with a toddler as screams echoed in the distance and debris washed by below. As Texas begins the long process of mourning, emergency responders remain focused on rescue efforts, while families cling to hope for those still unaccounted for. Well, with this, we come to the end of today's Flash News. Stay tuned for Horizon. Do have a pleasant day and stay safe.
Hello, hello, hello. This is a solemn invitation from your president, Samuel Sako. This is a call to every son and daughter of the land, wherever you may be. Now, with an eagle's eye, I'm looking at those of us from Mamfe, from Eyumojok, from Eko, from Akwaya, all sons and daughters of the great Manu County. Wherever you may be, whether at home or in the diaspora, the time has come for us to rise one more time. Not with fear, but with faith. Not with silence, but with sacrifice. The Manu County and our Ambazonia State Armed Forces need you. This Saturday, the 12th of July at 8 p.m. Ambazonia time, all roads lead to Mamfe via Zoom. We are gathering as one people for a purpose that defines our common destiny, the Manu County Draft. This is not just an event, it is a covenant. It is our covenant, a covenant to stand with our brave Ambazonia State Armed Forces, to fuel this resistance until the last man standing, and to keep the flames of freedom burning stronger and stronger in our villages, in our forests, in our hearts. So your draft fellow Ambazonians, your draft is your voice. Your draft is your defense. Your draft is your declaration that Manu, Ambazonia, shall never again kneel to tyranny, especially at this crucial time. The Ambazonia State Armed Forces have asked me to tell you that they need your sacrifice. If you have drafted, at least there are still some crumbs on your table. Make sure that our forces that are still in the trenches will not be discouraged, will not go hungry, or will not be without what they need to defend our land. Whether you are in a Cork or in the diaspora, whether you are in Manville or Maryland or UK or United Kingdom, or you are from Germany or China or Japan, wherever you may be, this is a call to come, contribute and defend. May God bless the great Manu County. May God bless Ambazonia. See you there.